My next guest has spent a lot of time on the Australian stage in shows like Mamma Mia, Guys and Dolls, Les Mis and Phantom of the Opera. But today we're going to have a chat about his latest project, playing Larry Murphy in Dear Evan Hansen. Welcome to Showtime, Martin Cruz.
Thank you, mate. Good to be here.
Great to have you. You've had a lot of success, both here in Australia as well as internationally. How did you get into theatre?
It was something that I always knew that I actually was going to do. My father was, he would have been a professional actor, except he wanted to have a family. And he was from New Zealand. There was no professional theatre in New Zealand at the time. We're talking 60s. But the biggest theatre in the country, I think it was called the Union Theatre. It was an amateur theatre in Wellington, and he was the president. And that's where he met my mother. My mother was from England. So he was always heavily involved in theatre. And I was born in England and grew up attending rehearsals and performances at this incredible sort of, I guess it's amateur, but they must have had subsidy, theatre called the Questors Theatre in Ealing in West London. Like Tom Stoppard was artist in residence there at the time and wrote Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead as a one-act play. It was the first place it performed. And I just remember sitting, I must have been 5 years old or something, and sitting watching a rehearsal. There were two people on stage, and I don't know whether one of them was my dad or not, but I remember sitting there going, I can do that, and that's what I'm going to do. Right, so I better go to class and learn what it's all about. I thought I was going to be discovered walking down the street. So I kind of, I'll go and ride my bike until someone finds me. And it wasn't until I was, I'd left high school and joined the workforce, and they'd taken their sweet time about discovering me. I better do something about it. So I auditioned for West Australian Academy of Performing Arts, and the musical theatre course at that stage was only 2 years old, and I had missed the intake for theatre. And someone said to me, why don't you audition for musical theatre? And I had never heard the term before, and I thought of a wind-up musical theatre. And I said, what's that? And they said, well, they've got this course and blah, blah, blah. So I auditioned and kind of turned up on the first day and I was like, what on earth is this? This is fabulous. And sort of the rest is history, really, in terms of, graduated after 3 years, moved to Melbourne first, then to Sydney, and then I did the international tour of Les Miserables back in 1996, and we toured through Southeast Asia and South Africa, and I thought we were away for 9 months. I thought I'm going to keep going because I'd always intended to go back to London. And so I did, and then I played Marius in the West End the following year.
And having been born overseas but then spent most of your life and working life here in Australia, and having performed both internationally and here, what's it like? What's different about performing to an Aussie audience?
Well, obviously the amount of opportunity is much less in Australia. So I think, every time you do a show, you get the cream auditioning for the show, whereas, the talent is more widely in the UK. And therefore, also the what's available to audiences and the amount of theatre that they have the opportunity to attend is exponentially greater. Having said that, certainly with Dear Evan Hansen, the audience appreciation is, off the charts. And I've had the experience of sitting in the audience on Broadway and being very aware that this is a theatre savvy audience. The laughs and insights into what the play is about and so on are quite evident. I don't know that we have that in Australia on such a wide scale. It's great to see, in terms of us being a sporting nation, just how much theatre is on. There are 2 shows opened last night, August Osage County and Jesus Christ Superstar, in Sydney alone. And, you know, there's just so much happening, and that's a testament to the fact that the audiences are coming.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, we are seeing a lot more new shows coming to Australia, like, of course, Dear Evan Hansen. We'll have a chat about the show in a sec. But when you do big tours, and you've done quite a few big, long touring shows, how do you keep it fresh?
Yeah, well, that's the trick. I'm not great. Once you get past the 12-month mark, I start to lose my mind. So I haven't really done. You meet some people and they're happy to sort of do 3 years or however long the thing's going to run. You know, I've only done 12 months a couple of times, and that's sort of my limit. Only because I sort of lose a sense of what I'm doing, really. You know, it gets to the point where it doesn't even feel like singing. It feels like speaking very loud. In terms of, you know, keeping a show fresh night after night, I think the key is to break down don't think of the show as a whole, and you have certain things that you think about entering into each scene, you know, always connected to the intention that your character has in that particular moment, which is particularly useful if you're in a show that's funny or that you get audience response, because quite often if you have a moment that's a guaranteed laugh, that moment can become about the laugh without you realizing it, and all of a sudden your intention is to get the laugh rather than get the cup of tea or whatever it is, which is what got the laugh in the first place. And so, yeah, I personally try to make sure I've got very clear intentions about what I want entering into the scene, or what my character wants, and that kind of helps to keep things fresh and alive each 6 months, 9 months into the run.
Which is, of course, not a problem for you right now, because you're in the brand new Australian premiere tour of Dear Evan Hansen. Playing...
What you did there? That was a neat...
Yeah, right? Do you like that segue?
Yeah, very good.
Thanks. Playing Larry Murphy, but what is it that Martin drew you to this show, to Dear Evan Hansen?
It's quite a rare... I mean, the writing of this show, it's more like a play with fantastic music than your typical kind of musical theatre musical. It's tackling some really key and very current issues. It's very much a young person's musical, I think. And so the opportunity to essentially do, you know, a modern play, but that is actually a musical, and so, you know, have those elements as well. And it's the performance style is it's realism. It's very sort of understated and you know, it's a domestic story. And the writing across the board, the script writing, but also the songwriting, you know, Stephen Levinson, who wrote the script, and then Pasek and Paul, who wrote the songs, just at the top of their game, you know.
Yeah, they absolutely are. And Dear Evan Hansen is such an emotional show, such an emotional piece of work. How do you handle that intensity every night on stage with all those people watching?
So coming back to what I was saying about keeping it fresh, it's not that, certainly for me, that the emotion builds through the course of the show. You know, before I walk on for a particular scene, I know what my intention is. And then as I walk out of the scene, I know what my intention is to where I'm going, but then I walk into the wings and it's gone. And so I don't sort of get to the end, even though the end of the show is quite upbeat and hopeful. I don't find I'm carrying any kind of emotional baggage. It's very compartmentalized for me. This is this scene. As long as I know what I want as I come in and what my intention is as I leave, then I go and have a cup of tea, and then on into the next scene. So it's not the same experience as it is for the audience, where it's building through.
And the audience in live theatre is such a big part of the process. You've also done a lot of work on TV and film work as well. What is it, do you think, that's so magical about that live theatre experience?
Well, exactly that kind of transient nature of it. That's why, audiences tend to love it if something goes wrong, or, if someone corpses as we laughs, I remember years ago doing I did a fantastic production of West Side Story, and it had the bridal shop came out of this incredible set, and this sort of frontage opened and the bridal shop came out, and it was Marina Pryor and Caroline O'Connor, and this one particular show, it sort of only came halfway, and they sort of didn't know whether to go on or not, but the orchestra sort of stopped, and so they decided to play the scene, and Marina's first line is "Por favor, Anita, 1 little inch. How much can 1 little inch do?" And as she said that, the thing nudged forward an inch, and by the time Adam Marchant, who was playing Bernardo, and I got into the bridal shop, the audience were in fits, and Marina was practically doing her club act, and from that moment on, it was one of the best shows that we'd ever had, because the audience was it was like they were part of the show as well. And they could always say, "Oh, I was there that night when the bridal shop didn't work," as opposed to the other 400 performances that we'd done where nothing, happened. So particularly when, even if it's not laughs, that kind of, that energy that you get from the audience, it's, obviously with Dear Evan Hansen, there's, it sort of builds to a bit of a train wreck, and you can hear gasps and, people going, no, like, which is it's wonderful. It just feeds the drama.
And it is, the way you describe it, Dear Evan Hansen is such a roller coaster of a musical in terms of emotions. What do you hope audiences feel and sort of take away on the ride home after seeing Dear Evan Hansen?
Well, as I say, it's quite affirming at the end, and there've been comments like, I'm going to go home and hug my child, or I'm going to just want to spend the weekend with my kids, so it's that that sort of reinforcing of human connection and of the importance of family. I mean, you get to witness the sort of the collateral damage of someone who takes their own life in this show, and in this sort of fast-paced, crazy, social media world that we currently live in. I feel as though, and I certainly hope, that it's it's a reminder to remember to connect and remember to express how you really feel and that sort of thing, and I think that's borne out by a lot of the comments that we've been receiving from audiences.
I'm chatting with Martin Cruz about Dear Evan Hansen, which is playing right now at the Roslyn Packer Theatre in Sydney. And then it's moving to Melbourne, to the Arts Centre from December this year, before going on to the Canberra Theatre Centre from February 2025, and then Her Majesty's Theatre in Adelaide from April 2025. For more information and to book tickets, visit dearevanhansenmusical.com.au. Martin, all the very best to you and to your castmates for the rest of the tour. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate that.